Hello, I'm Dr. Laura Murillo, President and CEO of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We are thrilled to have our first guest joining us, Representative Ana Hernandez, who has represented us so very well. She spends so much of her time in Austin advocating, especially for business, advocating for our region, and she's just done a stellar job, and we're always pleased when she joins us to give us her legislative update. Representative Hernandez, thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Dr. Murillo. Thank you so much for the invitation. And I also want to thank the Chamber for everything that you do in the community, especially this platform to be able to share information with our community.
Well, we appreciate it. It's so important. I know there's so much happening, but I want to start specifically with the congressional maps. For people who may not be aware of the significant impact that this has, can you please provide an update on the maps?
Absolutely. So yesterday we received a disappointing order from the U.S. Supreme Court upholding the maps that were passed during the special session of the last legislature. And just to give you a little bit of background in history, this is not normal for these maps to be redrawn in the middle of a decade. Normally, the process is there's the census. People fill out their census information as that is to gather and make sure where the population has grown, where it has shrunk, and how we can redistribute that representation by redrawing congressional maps and also state maps. So this is regarding just the congressional maps that Texas was given an order by President Trump to redraw those maps to ensure that they would prevail in these midterm elections. And so that's something that we as a Democratic caucus fought in the legislature and even left the state over the summer to prevent these maps from passing. And the importance is because that would diminish the voting power in our communities, especially our Latino communities, by redrawing districts. And so that is something that we felt that was unfair and illegal. Ultimately, the maps ended up passing, but we did raise the issue nationwide, and we saw California and Virginia and other states do similar redrawing of their maps to balance the scales. And so the fight continues, even though the Supreme Court has issued their order, there is still litigation going on at the district level. And like I said, the most important part is to make sure that everyone's voice is heard, that maps are not drawn in a way where communities are silenced, that their voting power is not as strong as other communities.
Absolutely. And so for people who are listening, who might feel that this is out of their control, that they don't have a voice, what would you suggest to organizations, to individuals? How can they make sure their voice is heard, not only on this matter, Representative, but on so many others?
Voting. Voting is the way that you express your pleasure or displeasure with what's going on. So start by going, if you're in Harris County, to harrisvotes.com. Enter your information, make sure that you are registered to vote, and make sure that your information is current, that your address, your name, if you've married or if you've divorced, that your name is current as well, and then you're ready for the next election. And most importantly, that November election, when we will be electing governor, lieutenant governor, members of the legislature, because it is the legislature that redraws these lines. And of course, we don't want this to continue in mid-decade redistricting, but it is coming up in the next decade, and especially for the people to participate in that census. It's important that everyone is counted.
Completing the census, and a reminder to people that voting is not just in November. There are elections throughout the year. It's important to keep up with them. I know that there may be some voter fatigue. It does matter. It does make a difference. So keep up with that. Go to the Harris County website to get information, understand what's at stake. A lot is at stake. Now, some people may not realize that your role as a state representative is something that you do throughout the year, and that you're gainfully employed as an attorney. So you are making your living, you managing a family, you have your own career. When you're not in Austin, you're in Houston. So what is a representative like yourself doing and occupying your time with the rest of the time when you're not in Austin?
We'll say in our Constitution, we are a part-time legislature, but it is far from part-time. Our regular legislative session is every other year. So we convene in Austin for the legislative session the second Tuesday of every odd number year for 140 days, which is roughly until the end of May, early June. And that is when we pass laws that affect the entire state. Whenever we are not in session, which that time is shrinking as the governor continues to call us back for special session after special session. For instance, this past session, we were there until September instead of leaving at the end of May, early June. The previous session, we were there until December. And mind you, this is a part-time legislature. We do not have a full-time salary. Many times people think that we have congressional salaries. We do not. We get paid $600 a month for our service in the legislature. So many of us, have other jobs, other obligations that we have to attend to be able to continue to serve in the legislature and take care of our families. And so my occupation is an attorney, so I try to practice law whenever I'm not doing legislative work. But during the interim, although we are not in session, we have interim charges, which are directions given by the lieutenant governor and by the speaker, giving the legislature work to do over the interim in preparation for the next legislative session. Issues that are important, issues that we should be addressing, issues that maybe we need to revisit because there were unintended consequences. And so these committees meet on a regular basis. My committee, which is State Affairs, I'm vice chair of State Affairs, we deal a lot with the energy issues. And so we have dealt with the power grid right now, hot issue right now across the state, across the nation, I think globally as well, are data centers. As we see more AI implemented in employment, in education, these data centers are, locating here in the state of Texas. And so we need to make sure that we're prepared for what all that entails.
And on that note, the data centers and jobs and the committee assignments that you have been on are critical in terms of having that voice. And so you've been on some very significant committees. You're an attorney by training. How has you being an attorney, how has that helped you navigate these waters? And how has it helped you be a better representative?
I would say I would probably start that explanation with how I started in the legislature as an intern, as an undergraduate student at the University of Houston. I was an intern through the Texas Legislative Internship Program, and I started working in the legislature 28 years ago as an intern and also throughout law school. And I would say the law school preparation has really helped in analyzing and trying to avoid those unintended consequences, knowing that little words matter, making sure that you are analyzing the entire situation, and what effect that could have, especially when we're dealing with statewide legislation. And so in state affairs, we deal with the power grid. That is something, that has been at the top of the minds for many Texans, not only in the summertime, but also in the wintertime as we have had power outages. And so that's a topic that we discuss regularly in our committee. And how do we make our power grid more resilient, more reliable, and especially now as that demand is increasing rapidly with these data centers coming to our state.
And soon we'll be going back to another legislative, agenda. What is a top priority for you and your constituents?
Absolutely. So right now during the legislature, during the interim, we try to maximize our time in being out in the community, attending community events, attending chamber events, and having conversations with our constituents. So we know at the forefront what are the issues that are more important for our community, and that is making sure that we secure those resources for our community. For instance, in the last legislative session, I was able to secure $11 million for a flood control project up in the North Channel area, which is very important because here in the Houston area, flooding is a big issue. And so we want to continue bringing those resources back to our community.
Well, Representative, thank you for all that you do. We wish you well the rest of this year. And as you head back to Austin again in January, to the entire delegation for representing us and for your ongoing advocacy for business, which is so very important. And for all that you do and more, we say thank you.
Thank you.